Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
Hello and welcome to the Popternative podcast. This is the podcast where we have digital discussions for worlds of pop culture, TV, film, sports, social media, everything depending on the guest. We want to cover it all. As always, I'm your host, Peter Meliodas. On Twitter and social media, you know me as PD Beats. My guest is an actor who stars in an upcoming series that's going to be dropping on Netflix called Locke and Key. We are speaking to Kevin Alves. Kevin, welcome to Popternative, man.
Thanks, man. I'm really happy to be here.
We talked about it a little bit before. I mean, it's going to drop in February, and I feel like it's kind of like the calm before the storm right now. People are seeing trailers about it, getting the feelers out there, but I think it's just going to be crazy for you once it comes out.
Yeah, we get like the trailers and stuff just like probably 6 hours before everyone else does. We don't get like a big preview. The only preview we really got of the show was when we were going in and doing like ADR work, so just doing voiceover work. So it's been really cool seeing all the special effects, because when you're making the show, you really don't know what it's going to look like. You kind of know a little bit, but you don't really get to know like how that CG stuff's going to come out, and it's starting to look really cool. We're excited.
It's so true, because I've interviewed a lot of people in horror movies, and they say the same thing. Like, they don't realize, like, they're just going in, working, doing the scenes, right? And they're not sure sometimes if the scene's meant to be scary or not.
Yeah, horror movies for sure. Horror movies, you have no idea, because whatever you're doing is not scary at all. Like, it's and same with us. Like, a lot of those scenes that we're doing, like there's suspense in our show for sure, and there's some, but we don't feel that. Like, we're playing it like it's a normal day, and then all that gets added in with all the post-production stuff. So it's kind of cool to kind of become the spectator after you're done the show, really.
Before we get into your career in Locke and Key, Kevin, why do you think on the topic horror movies are so big these couple of years? It's been insane.
I think it's just something, I think people want to feel something. And I think other movies, like, we really have to be deeply connected with a piece for it to be a drama that we're connecting with, like we have to be connected to what the characters are doing or what the social structure that's talking about. But with horror films, it's immediately connecting to like your human biology. Like, it's your biology that's getting hit. So the music gets you, the suspense gets you. So I don't know. I think we like being scared. It's the same reason why people don't watch good news. They watch bad news half the time, right? It's that idea that like fear almost is something that people thrive for, which is, it's counterproductive maybe in living a happy life, but it's fun.
No, it is fun for sure. For people that kind of follow you and kind of like see, like they've seen you before, you've been in Shadowhunters, you've been in Degrassi, you've been in your fair share of the kind of like relevant TV shows that have been very popular over the years. And I understand that acting was not always the career that Kevin Alves wanted to take. So can you talk about how you kind of got into acting and kind of talk to what I'm hinting at a little bit?
Yeah, no, well, I was a 7-year-old who was kind of crazy. He knew what he wanted. He wanted to be an international figure skater, and then he wanted to be an actor. And I knew that one of them had a timeline and one of them didn't. All right. And figure skating was something I wasn't really into it when I was like 4, 5, 6, but my sister did it. And then I went to like a couple shows. It was cool because I got to watch a show with a skater named Kurt Browning, and he's known as one of the greatest of all time. And I went home to my mom and I was like, I want to skate. And then she brought me hockey skates, and that's what you would do normally. And little 6-year-old Kevin was like, nope, I want skates like Kurt Browning. So I started figure skating right when I started skating. And I loved it. I loved crowds. I got to perform in front of like 5,000 people at a time. It was just one of those cool things. I got to travel the world doing it. I competed for Brazil for most of my career because that's where my family's from, and it has a close place to my heart, and that federation did a lot for me. So I got to travel the world, go to 2 world championships, 2 junior world championships. And then, when I was getting to like 19, I kind of realized that I needed to start at least getting some education in the acting world. So I went to a few studios. I also got into a university program that was a theater program. And at that time, I was kind of at a crossroads. So I had a couple years where I skated and acted at the same time. That's when I was doing Degrassi, and so that was kind of weird doing those two things at the same time. But yeah, I think I just always knew I was going to do both things. I think there was not even doubt in my mind that I was going to do both. So once my skating career, actually, I should say, I got to the point where I had done a lot of what I wanted to do. Then I was like, well, I flew down to LA. I spent time down there, met great managers, and the rest is history, man.
Absolutely. No, that's really, really cool. It's an interesting career path. And figure skating has always been pretty popular in pop culture. There's a show on Netflix now called Spinning Out about figure skating,
Yeah,
isn't there?
yeah. There was actually. I had spoken to them about, because obviously combining those two things would have been very cool. But at the time, I was shooting a pilot for Amazon, and so when they were shooting, it kind of didn't work. Plus, then we also were shooting at the same time as Lock and Key, both shows. So it was going to be hard to do both. But who knows if there's a season two? Who knows?
So Lock and Key, they were graphic novels before the show came out.
Yeah, we all have them.
Yeah, exactly. Um, but sometimes, adapted screenplays on the screen, right? They'll kind of use characters from the graphic novels, but they'll also create characters that maybe weren't in the graphic novels. It happened, like Walking Dead, I think, was one of the ones that was the big one for that, because there were some characters like from the Walking Dead graphic novels that were in the show, and then they created new ones, right? So talk a little bit about, without like any spoilers, what you could say about your character, the origins of your character in Lock and Key.
Yeah. So when I first got the call for this role, we had a different name completely, and so the role was it was still kind of sound the same. It wasn't Javi, but it was different. But we do know that it resembles a few different characters from in the graphic novel, like in terms of like kids at the school that like they know. So Brinker, who is Javi's best friend, is in the graphic novels quite predominantly, and so the two of us are just we're kind of that duo that's inseparable, is what I can say on the show. We're always together. When Connor's character sees us, I think maybe we're together 90% of the time. So I think that's something that we can talk about. He's a good guy. Javi's got a good heart. He kind of is like one of the first people in Matheson that introduces himself to Connor's character, and Connor Jessup is like an incredibly talented actor and an amazing human. So, getting to be part right away on episode 1 with him was like awesome, because he's such a nice guy.
Absolutely. And your character Javi, according to like IMDb, like he sticks around. Like Javi's around a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, he sticks around a bit, and Javi, he's there for a reason right at the top, and I think it's just something that I think it's something that Connor's character needs, someone there for him that's not his family and not a part of this house. And so the show does a really great job at depicting like teenagers trying to go through this versus like it just being about like the magic and the keys. They do a good job at bringing in real people, and like that whole cast, the whole cast of younger people on this show, and the older cast as well. Like I couldn't have asked for a better group of people to work with. So the show does a good job at keeping us there for a reason. When we're there, nobody's there for no reason. Like the show is written really, really well. So we're really proud of it.
It's funny you mention that, because it kind of goes hand in hand with a question I always ask about kind of like misconceptions of the industry. But like you mentioned, because like every time I interview someone from a show, they say like the cast, we became a family. You know what I mean? Yeah, I'm wondering if that like if that's not always the case. Like I'm wondering. You know what I mean?
It is absolutely not always the case. That I know from experience in my lifetime. Because sometimes you just don't gel with people.
Yeah.
And people have different priorities, and sometimes they're at different stages in their life. So for instance, when I was first getting started, I was on a couple shows where those people had booked like 10, 15 things beforehand. They've been doing it since they were like 6 years old. And I was 19-year-old just trying to just get going. So like there's not a lot in common with those people, and like I was a figure skater, so sometimes I didn't mesh well with people. I will say though, out of every cast that I've ever been in, and I've had a few good ones, like a few good relationships with different people coming out of cast, none of them compare to the people on Lock and Key. Because first of all, I think because we're secluded here in Toronto, like if that makes sense, like the cast came from everywhere, right? Like we have Amelia from the UK, we have Darby from the States, Patrice from the UK, like we have all these people who came out, and in Jackson from the States, like so everyone was here for just the show. We don't have an insane amount of Canadians on like the recurring cast, so it was a lot of people from outside. So we right away started doing things together. Like Jackson was coming out with his horror movie, The Prodigy. And like I think it was day 3 of us knowing each other, and we all went to go watch it together, and we're all out grabbing dinner, and then I think a week in we're all out going skating together in Toronto, and so it was definitely a different vibe than I've ever had on a cast before, because we were hanging out all the time. Me, Griffin, and Amelia. I can't even tell you the amount of times we were up until 3 a.m. at Amelia's condo, where just listening to music and just talking. Like you don't really get cast that cool and people with, that you just want to hang out with and grab a drink with, like as often as we got on Lock and Key. And Darby, from the minute, like Darby's worked on Scandal and she's done amazing projects in the past. And right away, she's open arms to everyone, being like, if you need anything, I'm here. And big hugs and talking to us and taking the time to see everyone. But we got that feel from, I think that was led from our producers and showrunners and Netflix team. Like we had this cool, like I remember it was like my 3rd day on set, I think, and we were shooting this scene in a convenience store, and it was really cool because the 2 Netflix producers were there, showrunner was there, a bunch of people, and they were willing to just have conversations about what we were trying to do and what kind of show we wanted to make with everyone. So like I'm not a lead on the show, but they were having those conversations with me, right? Like we have Amelia, Connor, and Jackson, and Darby. Those are the leads of the show. Like they carry the show from beginning to end, and Lysla as well. And it was just really nice to have open communication from like the top end, where usually they just kind of, on a lot of shows I've been on, they just come in, watch, and leave. Whereas they were here for the whole. They were part of it. They were really engaging with us, and that I think just also forced the cast to start talking more right away, so no one kind of hit by themselves,
No, absolutely.
And it was super cool.
No, that sounds really cool. I'm really curious to watch the show because there's one of my buddies who I went to school with. I went to CEGEP with him in Montreal. Is in one episode of Lock and Key.
Oh, cool.
It's Jesse Camacho.
Oh, Jesse Camacho is one of the greatest people I have ever met.
He's the best.
the first time I met Jesse, and again, this just goes to show how great this cast was together, was the first time one of the characters on the show is played by Halia. And Halia writes music, and she was really just, as the show was starting, she was also just getting back into really like writing and performing. So she was doing like a show, an open mic type show, and she asked if we wanted to come, and I went to go watch her right away, of course. And Jesse, I met him there because he wasn't at the first read through. So I think he was still traveling. He was still doing his traveling here. And he was just the coolest guy. He's like, "Oh, you're Kevin? Here, let me get you a drink right away." He was, I can't even tell you stories about Jesse. We went karaoke with Jesse. We went around the town. He's just, he's one of those guys who has taken his career and just enjoyed every minute of it.
Very humble guy.
Oh, he's so humble, and he makes you more humble just being around him. You start to appreciate doing this just by being around him, and that's kind of just one of those crazy qualities. I will never get rid of Jesse Camacho in my life ever.
No, absolutely. And it's funny because his dad's an actor as well, and his dad also does the voice. He did the voice of Francine's dad in Arthur. Which is like the coolest thing, because if everyone who watches the show, Kevin, knows that I'm like a huge Arthur fan.
There's the jam.
Yeah, I know. Man, it's like that show. I will ask people like what shows did you watch growing up here and there, or like what did you like, and then you have like the generic answers, right? And then from time to time, someone will be like, "I watch Arthur a lot," and then it's like game over.
And then you're like, oh, wait.
Game over. That's what we're talking about right now. But no, it's really really cool. No, you talk about that a little bit too. Lock and Key is a show on Netflix. Netflix is a powerhouse. Social media is a powerhouse these days. You see these kind of cast and crew. They get kind of social media. Once the show comes out, they put the teasers on and everything. But once the show comes out, it just explodes. There's a Netflix reality show on TV right now called The Circle. And I had Sammy, who was a contestant on. I recently dropped the episode. And it's like, she's going up like, I'm not even kidding you. She's going up like 10,000 followers every 2 hours. Like, it's nuts. Lock and Key, are you guys ready for that possible traction that's going to come from Lock and Key?
We honestly, when we all talk about it, because we have a group chat always, and when we really talk about it, we just say, I don't care what happens, as long as this comes out the way we want it to come out, and it has the right messages that we really think it does as we were making it. We really hope it reaches people, and it's something that I'm really enjoying about streaming services right now. And this is what I love about streaming services. There was a good chunk of time, especially when I was getting started acting, where social media was blowing up, right? And social media influencers, that was like, they were getting booked over and over and over again for shows. And because, networks were looking for followers to bring to their show, because the networks didn't have the powerhouse of being able to make people turn on the channel as much. Whereas now with streaming services, you're turning on Netflix no matter what. So Netflix is now the powerhouse that gets to choose what you're seeing in front of you. So they're going, hey, we think this is a really good show. We're putting this on the front. Watch it. And everyone sees it. So so it gives them the freedom to cast who they want to cast, which I find amazing because, maybe 5 years ago, if this show was made somewhere else on another network on a TV, my role would have gone to someone who had 1 million followers already on Instagram. Whereas now they just went with the script. They went, who's right for these roles? And you can tell when you watch this show, you're going to see Jackson and Amelia and Connor together. And you're going to go, man, I can't believe you would think of anyone else to play these three roles and these guys. Cause they own it. And it's the sibling feeling between them is incredible. And that only happens because powerhouses like Netflix can now just choose who they want for the role because they push the product to the consumer now.
That's great to hear. To play devil's advocate, however, I have heard the other side of the story where people have gotten roles or lost roles out to people who had more social media followers than them. So I'm sure it happened, both of them happened.
That's going to happen once in a while, but we're going away from that now. And that's probably more still on network shows than it is on streaming service shows. So because on streaming service shows, they choose how many people it reaches, really. Like the algorithm, right? That's the cool part about that is they can't control who connects with it. They can't control who's going to then tell 20 other people about the show, but they at least have that ability to say, hey, here's a good show that we made that we believe you should watch right now.
100%.
And that I like. So yeah, I think I've still lost roles to people with more followers or whatever it is. But you know what? I'm starting to slowly give the benefit of the doubt to the production and saying okay, maybe that person was better for the role because they don't need the followers, those streaming services. They don't need that. They don't need the following to come from the actor. They will make that happen just from the show itself. Look at Stranger Things and the best shows that have come out of that network. And, I think I started realizing this when I did the pilot for Amazon and when I got to work with the wife of one of the Duffer brothers. She's incredible. And she is Lee Janiak, and she's one of the greatest directors I worked with. And when, you start to realize that, they get to cast whoever they want now, I love it. I love that feeling, and streaming services have that power, and networks hopefully will start to get that as well now too.
Absolutely. Before we wrap up too, just a general thing, because you also mentioned that, your family's from Brazil and you competed, for Brazil. We are seeing, with the the announcement, of the Academy Awards. I think we're seeing a really big rise in foreign cinema right now with Parasite and Pain and Glory and a lot of shows on Netflix and a lot of movies on Netflix. I just wanted your kind of opinion on that right now. Do you agree that we're in the rise of foreign cinema right now and people are just kind of like what the director of Parasite said about the just going beyond the subtitles, you'll be kind of exposed to so much more amazing content out there. What do you think about that, Kevin?
Yeah, I think it's absolutely true. I think that right now we're creating more foreign content than we ever have, and more importantly, there's more money available to foreign content than there ever has, and that's another thing, right? Like the industry is starting to realize, and again, streaming services helped with that because that's what it took a couple of shows and a couple of movies to hit streaming services internationally and have people still watching it, and those numbers come into those streaming services and be like, oh, people will still watch this. We don't need to just target Brazil or target, that specific country that it was made for, because people watch it. Look at Elite. Elite took off. Like that show took off. And I think it's a good trend. I think there's such amazing content coming out. And if language is the only barrier between the content, there's cinematography, direction, acting. Like there's so many other factors to a film besides just the language that's being used, that I think we're going to start seeing a lot more content as well, blending the two, right? Blending different languages together, like having content that takes place in both the United States and another country, and they're talking both languages. And I think that that's what we're going to see a lot of as well. And I think that will be kind of like a lead in to more and more foreign content, is finding ways. And I think a show just came out from Netflix, Messiah, that has that kind of that blend as well.
Yeah.
Between different foreign content and.
Well, I mean, Narcos, right? Like Narcos is like one of my favorite shows, right? And it's amazing. A good chunk of it, is in Spanish. You know what I mean? So it's just like like that half and half. I think Netflix has done a really good job with as well. But yeah, no, it's just an amazing time for it right now.
Yeah, I can't think of a better time for foreign
content
to come out, and content in general right now is the quality has been amazing recently, and yes, we have a lot of content coming out, but if you look in the right places, you find the incredible content, and I really, really hope that people end up watching our show because I really enjoyed making it.
Do you think this is kind of like people are watching so much content right now more than ever because we're all realizing that times can be really tough and we just want to kind of sit on the couch and watch stuff? And do you think that's kind of the narrative that's going on, Kevin?
Yeah, I think I think there's an escapism to it for sure. I think there's an escapism from where kind of the world is right now for sure, but also it's just accessibility is more than ever, right? Yeah. Accessibility changes the industry completely, and the fact that you can go to a couple different streaming services instantly and a couple different channels instantly, and you're no longer restricted to whatever content is playing in that moment, but you're restricted to only the content that you want to see. I think that's what's changed stuff, is people watch more because they get to watch what they want to watch more.
No, for sure.
And it's a simple just supply and demand feel to it. You're giving them what they want. And so they get to watch more because they can.
No, absolutely.
And I'm enjoying it as an actor because then there's more. There's not.
Excuse me.
There's more opportunity, but also there's more opportunity to kind of decide what kind of projects you want to be a part of, and that's huge.
No, absolutely. Well, Kevin, we will wrap up, but thank you so much for coming on the show to talk about your career, Locke and Key, your kind of opinions on the industry right now, because it's like you said, it's an amazing time, and it's going to be an amazing time for you, man, and I hope you enjoy the wave that is Locke and Key, man.
Yeah, we're just gonna enjoy it. We've already been seeing such cool, like from the people who get previews of the show, like such great responses from it, and we kind of hold our breath because it's such a small sample size. So we're just hoping that people really like it when it comes out. But thank you for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Where can people follow you on social media to keep up to date?
Yeah, Instagram is the most used one of mine. It's Kevin Alves is the name. And we're putting up lots of content. We're going to, as the show comes out, and once it does come out, we all have our phones stored with just an insane amount of behind the scenes content that we have not been allowed to share at all. And I'm sure once the show comes out, we will be throwing it out there for everyone like crazy.
And Locke and Key comes out on Netflix on
February 7th.
February 7th, everyone. So be sure to watch Locke and Key.
Yeah, we'll be at the premiere in LA on February 5th, and then everyone else gets to see it 2 days later.
Wow, it's going to be amazing, man. Well, enjoy it, man, and congratulations, man.
Thank you. Have a good one.
No problem. Well, this has been Popternative, youtube.com/Popternative for previous episodes. Be sure to watch Locke and Key on Netflix February 7th. And until next time, this is Kevin Alves and Peter Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.